Hello and welcome! This is Melskinner, and this is going to be a first look at the Pillars of the Earth. Full disclosure, I did receive a copy of this game from the developers for free. With that being said, though, what is Ken Follett's The Pillars of the Earth? Well, it's a Telltale-esque point-and-click adventure game. And I have played this for a couple hours already, but what we're going to do is we're going to start from the beginning so that you can see how this game works, because it is very story driven. And let's start at the beginning of the story. So we're going to start a new game, and it says our unsaved progress will be lost, although that's not really that big of a deal. There is a number of save slots that you have the ability to take advantage of. We'll take a look at that a little bit here in the future. So we're going to just hit yes here. Do you want to play the tutorial? There is a tutorial in this game, and it's pretty simple. It's not very long, so it's pretty easy to get through, but it does a pretty good job of explaining things to you. So if it's the first time you're playing this, I highly recommend that, but it's not going to be required for me as I've already gone through it. We're going to be getting right into the story here. So this obviously takes place in England, and it's going to take place in the 12th century here. 1135 is the current year.
This should do. How do you feel?
Oh, can't complain. After all, there's a cozy tree in my back.
I promise, this will be the last fire. After tonight, it won't be trees anymore, but walls and a roof. In Shiring, I will find a job.
What if the bishop wants to hire you for life? To keep his palace in shape, maybe strengthen the town's defenses? Plain things, Tom Builder. Just walls and roofs.
There. Took me a lifetime to find some dry ones in this wet. Why didn't we just use your staff? That old thing would have done nicely.
Because that thing is precious. It's not made to burn. And we might be able to sell it. Right, now let's see if this does the trick.
Alright, so the visual elements of the game, the artistic style, is one of the big draws, especially for me, coming into this. So we have our point-and-click adventure style. So if I hold in the space bar, I can see all of the things that I can interact with. So I see
I'm freezing.
firewood. Now if I right click, I can see some information about it, which is what is happening right now as I'm hitting right click. But to do this, what we're going to need to do is our toolbar is over here in the lower left corner. We click on that item, then we click on the firewood to use the item on the firewood. It's a pretty standard point-and-click adventure fare.
Martha, you want to cut up some turnips? We'll be making soup.
If it helps.
Alfred, you go and look for water.
We could just eat snow.
No, it'll be proper water for my family. You sit, I'll take care of it.
You still haven't answered my question, Tom Builder. What if the bishop offered you a job like they did in Exeter? Something that is beneath your craft, but pays for a lifetime. Easy work.
Well, building something is never easy.
You know what I mean. After Exeter, you said I could create something that matters, something that stands for eternity, or I could die setting up houses and sheds. But what if houses and sheds would feed your family? Would you stay this time, or would you keep on looking?
Alright, so just like Telltale, you do have a time limit to say your different answers. So we have two answers here, so I'm going to say this one.
You know I could do so much more.
You said the same thing then, and look where it brought us. Just promise me you'll think about it.
Alright, so I need to find some water. Now we have another element to the UI, and it's going to tell us about this. So it's a clue. You just collected a clue. Clues work like items. You use them on characters to talk about them, and use them on objects to ponder how
Maybe
the
we can
clue
solve
and the
the
object may be
Alfred.
connected.
I'm joking.
And one thing I will
listen to
point out as a little bit of a criticism is that it seems like the lip syncing doesn't really match too well. Oftentimes it seems like it's a little delayed. I think I saw it a few times in that bit of dialogue to start off where it just didn't seem like the lips were matching very well. So, for example,
Stupid snow.
how we can use this, if we can
Why
go
did
over
I
to
have to come
Alfred
down
here,
just now?
and we can click on Alfred with
Do you
that
see a
water.
river nearby?
No, it's just woods.
So we got a little bit of information based off that. We could do the same thing with Agnes here.
I'll be right back.
I know.
But if we were to right click, we get rid of the hint and we can just normally talk to Agnes.
Just don't stroll too far.
Or again, if I right click on Agnes, we can see a little bit of information about her. So she's pregnant, the baby's due in a couple weeks, and so on. We can talk to Martha, the little girl.
And how's my little girl holding up?
I don't have time for holding up. I have to cut up our dinner.
You're a steadfast lass, Martha.
Thank you.
And we have the staff here. Now again, if I hold down the spacebar, we can see all the items I can interact with. So if I click on the staff here,
Can you see the sun yet?
No. But Martha?
Don't distract me. I'm working.
and then we've got a little bit of information here. If we hit inspect, now we're going to pull up the documents here, which are going to give us a lot of background into the characters and what's going on in the world. So we have Tom's staff. We're playing as Tom. Tom received this mason's tool as a farewell gift in Exeter in 1125, which was 10 years ago. He uses it to lay the groundwork for new buildings. Its shadow can tell time and point out the east, the direction a church must always face. Exeter was Tom's first time working on a cathedral, and initially, it was like any other job. His master builder often scolded him for not working up to standard, but soon Tom began to understand the importance of proportion, the symbolism of numbers, and the almost magical formulas of solid structures. The staff reminds him of his dream to one day build the perfect cathedral from the ground up. So now we know a little bit more about Tom. We also have a tab for maps, which at this point we don't have any, but we'll get one later on in the game. Then we have our normal settings tab here that we can take a look at. All right, and I believe...
like Salisbury. I wish we had stayed.
They had no work for your father.
So what? I can work.
You're a mason just like Tom. If he can't find work, you can't either.
All right, so we just picked up an item there, and we got through the contextual hints there that this could be used to help us get the water. Okay, one of the last things we haven't had to sell yet. We're going to take that, and now we're going to find some water. That's our objective
Didn't I
here.
get a job when we
And again,
arrived
I
in
can hold down
Shire?
spacebar to see if there's anything I can
You're a
interact
little
with
girl.
You can all
as we
help.
go.
We'll get through this together.
And as we get to the edge of the woods here, we're eventually going to get to a point where we have an exit. This is going to denote that there is an exit whenever we see this particular icon. So now we're going into a new part of the woods, deep into the woods. Now again, holding down the spacebar, we see that there are other items we can interact with, and we see a frozen puddle. Well, that sounds like something we probably want to interact with. Frozen puddle of water. They deserve better than that. But let's go over and click on it.
Too hard for my fist, but my pot should break it.
So there we go. Now we know if we use the item here, we click on the puddle. Now we use the pot to try and break it.
Houses and sheds.
Now we have a more like a QTE here. We have to hit the left mouse button on these green
and
bars
walls.
as the dot slides back and forth.
I could do so much better.
I think the first time I played, there was also a QTE
I have
for
to feed my family.
the striking of the flint and tinder, but for whatever reason, it didn't do it this time.
keeping you?
Alright, so we've got some water and some ice. Now you'll note that the circle here is only a half circle. So that tells us whether or not we can actually interact with it. So if I left click on this, he doesn't do anything. We could right click on it to find out information about it. Like for example, the dirty snow here. I can right click here, but left clicking on that dirty snow does nothing. So it's only a contextual thing. It's only going to give me a little bit of information. But the crow, for example, I can left click on. And he'll actually do something with it. So again, we have another item here that has the full circle. So if we left click there.
Beautiful.
Strong granite. If broken down properly, these would make a wonderful porticus. So we kind of get an idea that he has a vision that this might be a wonderful place for a cathedral. Okay, so if we continue to move here, there is an option to go deeper into the forest if we want. Now, the first playthrough I did not explore any further, but this time I think I will. Just to see what's in the world here, so we're not going to miss out on anything. But it's possible this is a mistake. Okay.
It's just more woods down that way.
Alright, so it's possible there's nothing in this area, but we're going to go ahead and try these things just to see what happens.
Nah, no getting through there.
Alright, so I guess that's it for this particular part of the game, but this is just meant to be a prologue to get us through and introduce a lot of the game elements to you as well. Okay, now we can go back to camp and put our pot on the fire.
And did you think about what I asked you?
I'll say I will take the job.
Dreaming of building a cathedral was foolish. When we get to Shiring, I'll take the job.
Why is a cathedral so special?
Well, you've seen a few. You should know.
Yes, but there are so many already. Why do you have to build another one? Is it because God needs more houses?
May I?
If you must.
Well.
Alright, now we get to tell a story here. Now this time I don't have a time limit, so I can pretty much take my time here. So we can start with the walls or we can start with the roof. Well, it makes sense to start with the walls. You wouldn't want to start with a roof, would you? So let's start with the walls.
Actually, a cathedral isn't so different from any other house. It always starts simple, with some walls.
And on top of that, you put a roof.
Very good. A roof to keep off the rain, and walls to keep up the roof. Together that makes one big, long, but dark room. Like a cave.
Okay, now we have another couple choices here. I'm going to say put in windows.
So of course you may want some light coming in.
Windows.
Right. So the people inside can see what they're doing.
I think you forgot something. People can't get in if there are only walls.
So what do you suggest?
So, what do you suggest?
Doors, of course.
Right. And not only doors, but a big and impressive one to let in as many people as possible. By now, we've carved quite a few holes in our cathedral. Unfortunately, not every building can carry a roof like that, and have so many windows.
So what do we do?
Good and solid work. That's what we do. If we don't want our cave to collapse, we have to make everything perfect. Not only strong, but consistent and perfectly even. The walls, the roof, the windows, everything perfectly proportioned.
You shouldn't say big words like proportioned when talking to a child.
What does it mean?
It means beauty. Well, it means not only will it keep them dry,
It will give them hope.
it will give them hope. Agnes?
Mama?
The baby is coming.
But it's not due. Have your waters broken yet?
Soon after we started walking this morning.
You should have told me.
I'm so tired. I don't believe I can bring it into the world.
But look at all the blood.
All right, so first we're going to talk to the children here.
Children? Martha? Collect some reeds and make me 2 lengths of string, each big enough for a necklace.
What for?
You'll see.
What about me?
Get more water. Take snow if you must to make it warm.
Right.
Okay, we also have the cloak here. So I'm trying to be a little bit
Let me
quick
come
here, as this is a little tense at the moment. Okay.
Right, what can I do to help?
Stay with me.
Okay, we're going to tell her a story.
Remember when Martha was born and the Lady Isabella acted as midwife?
You were building a chapel, and you asked her to send her maid to fetch the midwife from the village.
Yeah, and she said, that drunken old witch won't let her deliver a literal wolfhound pups. And she took us to our own chamber. And poor Lord Robert could not go to bed until Martha was born.
The water's warm now.
Put it next to me.
All right, we're going to try and keep the children busy here. All right, look around. We're going to talk to
Alfred,
Alfred again. Build a bigger fire.
go and collect more wood. Let's have a bigger fire.
More wood?
Do what your father tells you.
Yes, Mother.
Okay, now that he's off doing stuff, tell her another story.
I'd say for a year as bad as this one, we've managed quite well.
You lost your work, and then Martha almost got killed by that pig thief. You call that well?
I know. But we're still here for each other, aren't we? Holding together as a family. Us builders aren't carved out of measly wood. Never were.
You expect a lump of granite to come falling from my legs?
I wouldn't be surprised.
All right, keep on talking.
I am proud of you.
I feel so weak.
You'll make it. You're a strong woman. That's why I love you so much.
Two of a kind, eh? I'm sorry that I kept quiet all day. I didn't want anyone to worry.
I put more wood on the fire.
Can you feel the warmth?
Yes, it's not long now. Be ready.
It's all right.
It's all right.
The day was hard enough on everyone without me complaining.
I know. But we will get through this.
All right, we're going to look around again. We're going to talk to Alfred again. Keep him
Alfred.
busy.
Take care of your little sister.
She's all right. She's busy. Let me help too.
It's coming! Help me, Tom! It's coming!
I can see it.
It looks horrible.
He's perfect. A perfect boy. You're still bleeding.
It's all right. It will stop soon. Tom,
Yes?
you make a fine midwife. Did you know that? Do you remember the night I came to you? In your lodge? When you were working on my father's church?
Of course. How could I ever forget?
I never regretted giving myself to you. Never. For one moment. Every time I think of that night, I feel so glad.
Me too.
I hope you build your cathedral.
I thought you were against it.
I was. But I was wrong. You deserve something beautiful. Build a beautiful cathedral. For me.
Papa, what's wrong with her face?
Agnes! Agnes, wake up!
Unfortunately, a little bit of a sad introduction to this game. And we have a very interesting intro sequence here, almost like it is a television show. All right, and there we have the introduction to the game, more or less. That was the prologue. And following this, we'll get a summary of more or less what we did in that section. So, covering the prologue, what we did. You want your cathedral to bring hope. You were hesitant to accept just any job the bishop might offer. You did your best to support Agnes during childbirth. Now, the first time I played through this was different. It said you struggled rather than you did your best. So, a little bit better this time around. You found information about Tom's past. So, mostly it did the same that I did the first time I went through this prologue, except for the battle performance during the childbirth segment. And a lot of that was achieved by just talking to her. Whereas before I was trying a bunch of other things and maybe it was a little too scattershot with stuff, or I wasn't being as helpful as I could have been, but I did more or less a lot of the same things. It was, I think the big important thing was just talking to her and comforting her, and that way was a big element of that. I did get achievement for that as well, which was nice. So that's going to pretty much wrap up my look at the game, at least for this video. Now, I am thinking about continuing on with this and covering this in a series, so I'm going to go ahead, we're going to hit accept here, we're going to go in a little bit to the intro of the next part of the game here. So this is book 1 from the Ashes. Now, this is broken into 3 parts, and each part or book has, at least for this first part, or first book, it is 7 chapters. So this is the first chapter, and that chapter is titled Philip. And we're going to come out onto the bridge here. I believe it will allow me...
The year of our Lord 1135 had come to an end. King Henry of England, son of William the Conqueror, had died. It was a time of poverty and death. In their despair, some had come to believe Christ and all his saints had gone to sleep, and that the pillars of the earth themselves had begun to crumble.
Okay, we're at Kingsbridge. Kingsbridge. Okay, so, Brother Paul?
Brother Paul? Hello!
You just crossed the bridge, right? That'll be a farthing for you and a penny for your horse.
Alright, we're going to inform him about his mistake.
Monks and villagers don't have to pay a toll.
Sorry, I'm not good at this. I told Brother Paul. It's not easy doing the Lord's work when you're hungry.
Alright, we're going to threaten to tell the prior. I know this guy is kind of a little bit of a scumbag. The first time I did this playthrough, I offered him cheese, but he doesn't deserve it.
I will let the prior know you neglect your duties. Take care of my horse, I'm late.
I'll just leave it with me. I'll get it down to the priory later, once I've caught myself a fish down here by the river. Fresh fish is much better than the salted ones they feed us.
Prior James will hear about this.
Prior James? That's him the bells are tolling for. Don't you know? The devil has come to Kingsbridge.
The devil has come to Kingsbridge?
Alright, Philip's Bible. You can use the Philip's Bible on objects to find out what the Bible tells Philip about them, or use it on people to discuss matters of faith. So just to demonstrate that really quickly, so we have 2 items in our inventory right now. We have some cheese, which we could have given to that novice if we had chosen to. I did not, because as I said, my experience from the first playthrough made me realize that he's not really worth giving it to, but I will point out that the dialogue I had with him was quite a bit different because I was reprimanding him rather than giving him the cheese. So there are differences for the choices I make. Now, as far as this works, more or less, just with everything else, you have the same contextual thing. These are different things that you can click on. But with the Bible, if you click on it, like for example this hut.
I wonder where Paul is.
Oh, okay, well that didn't really work. Let's try the bridge instead.
This neglect will be a burden on the priory's coffers. A shameful waste.
So more or less he's using, this is not maybe the best example of this, but oftentimes he'll read scripture.
Order my steps in thy word, and let not any iniquity have dominion over me.
There we go. There's an example of that. So it gives you a little insight of how Philip feels about things, either based off of his faith or mostly based off of his faith. So some of those were him reading scripture, but some of them were just his opinion in relation to how it affected his faith. And then if we want a more general idea, we can just do that right-click thing just like before. So we see that the bridge is in bad repair, it's been neglected, and so on. All right, with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. But just to show, I was talking about earlier we have save slots. So in my first playthrough, I used a number of save slots here, and this just demonstrates how many you have. So here we have the prologue section where I used a couple save slots, and then we have Philip's section here. In the 2 hours that I played previously, I was still within this first chapter. So from what I can see, this game has quite a lot to offer, even though only the first part of a 3-part overall game has been released. So I'm going to go ahead and select this save slot here. If we select that and hit save, then there we go. There's our save slot. So it's pretty standard for a point-and-click adventure. Although, to be honest with you, this is not normally my a game that I have a lot of experience with. I've played some point-and-click adventures, but it's not really usually a genre that I get into all that much, but I thought with this game that I'd like to give it a try. I have played some of the Telltale games. I think the main one that I've played is The Walking Dead, although I don't think I played it all the way through. I've only played a portion of it. So that's most of my experience with the Telltale games, but with that experience playing The Walking Dead, I can tell you, and from what you've seen, there are similarities between the games. So if you are into the Telltale experiences, this might be a good alternative for you to take a look at. And the art style alone is just fantastic in this game. But from what I've seen, again, I've only been playing it for a couple hours. I've only been into the first chapter. So it's hard to make big conclusions off of what I've seen, but what I have seen I'm very impressed with. You have a pretty compelling story. It seems to be kind of Games of Thronesy in that there's a bit of drama and intrigue and what have you. Now, unlike Games of Thrones where it was very fantasy based, this is based in more the real world where there isn't magic and dragons and so on. So that's a big difference right there, but as far as theme goes, it's pretty similar. In any case, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. This is Mouse Gunner, signing out.